If you are pregnant or you've recently had a baby, this podcast is for you. I am your host, Kath Bequee, a physiotherapist working in women's health and mum of 3. Join me each week as we dive into all things pregnancy care, childbirth and postnatal recovery, helping you have a wonderful pregnancy and afterbirth experience. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. Well, hello and welcome everyone. My name is Kath Bequee from Fitness Mama, which is an online community helping pregnant and postnatal women keep fit and healthy during pregnancy, prepare for childbirth, and have a strong postnatal recovery, helping women get back to doing what they love with confidence and a bubba by their side. So today I have the pleasure of chatting with Emma Jenkins all about baby wearing. It is a really fun episode, and it was actually a really enlightening episode for myself. So despite the fact that I've had 3 babies, I know things have changed dramatically in recent years when it does come to baby wearing. So I chat with Emma, and Emma is a mum. She's a registered psychologist, and she has 9 years experience working with families, schools, children, and adolescents. And in more recent years, she has been working with mothers in the perinatal space. So Emma has done further training with the Australian Baby Wearing Association, and she has become a certified baby wearing consultant so that she can help teach the magic of safe, comfortable baby wearing to free up the arms and hearts of parents across the globe as they grow their babies' brains by holding them close. Emma has a passion for providing services that support mums in transition to drop the overwhelm and reclaim control so that they can move towards the joy and peace in motherhood that they have always dreamed of. So today we discuss the benefits of baby wearing for bubs and parents. We discuss the benefits of the different types of slings and carriers. We talk about safety tips, things to be aware of, ergonomics, and the different types of baby wearing that's available. So it's a brilliant episode. It's really enlightening, and I know you are going to love it. Before we do dive into this great episode with Emma, I do just want to let you know that today is the start of the free 3-day pregnancy workshop. So it kickstarts in just a few hours if you are listening to this as the episode drops. So 1st of December, we've got 3 days, 3 ways to prepare for labour, and it's a free 3-day workshop. This workshop, it's been held a few times, but most recently it has been a quick 1-hour workshop. And I did love the 3-day format where we can really dive into things a bit deeper. So the 3-day workshop is back on, and it's previously received some beautiful feedback. These 3 days will leave you feeling more confident and empowered about your upcoming childbirth experience. In these 3 days, you will learn about active birthing positions. So what are some positions that you can use during the different stages of labour? We're going to discuss pelvic floor preparation. So you'll learn about perineal massage, what it is, and how it may help to reduce your risk of perineal tears and episiotomy. And you're also going to learn about the after-birth recovery essentials to help boost that all-important after-birth period. So as a women's health physio, everything I will be sharing in this free 3-day pregnancy workshop are things I believe every woman deserves to know when pregnant to really help with her childbirth and afterbirth experience. To register for this free workshop before the doors close, which is super soon, head to fitnessmama.com/pregnancy workshop, and the link is also in the show notes. All right, let's get into this episode. So Emma, thank you so much for joining me today. It is really lovely to chat all about baby wearing because it's a fun topic.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk about this topic. It's very close to my heart.
Absolutely. And to be honest, I didn't know this was a thing. I always felt like baby wearing was just something you did, and to discover you and how this is your passion and everything you do, I'm very honoured to dive into all things baby wearing. So let's just get straight into it. What are some of the benefits? Like, why do we want to be baby wearing? Like, for bubs, for mums, like, and parents, why are we doing this? Why do you do what you do?
Yeah, awesome. Awesome question. I think, gosh, that's the whole reason why I fell so in love with this as a practice and as a topic, and especially with my background as a psychologist. You know, for me, the benefits of baby wearing for both the baby and the wearer just really enhanced why it's such a beautiful practice. So for me, the biggest and most important thing is related to the development of a secure attachment. So a secure attachment to our babies. I'm sure most of you have heard that phrase before. You know, with all these beautiful hormones flowing and helping our babies' brains grow, we know so much now about the magic of skin to skin with oxytocin. And, you know, I'm not suggesting that baby wearing is enough to develop a secure attachment just in itself, but it's a really magical way to help enhance that and to give us our hands back so that we can be giving our babies kind of what they need. Yeah, but I guess babies are born really dependent on us. We're a clinging species. So as human beings, we're kind of meant to carry our young from an evolutionary perspective. That's really natural, and that's kind of how our babies are designed to survive.
Let's actually take a step back. Perhaps I went straight into it. So as you said, you're a psychologist. Were you initially interested in baby wearing, or is it as a result of what you do in your work that you've developed this interest?
Oh, definitely both. So I've been a mum now for 5 years. I've got 2 little boys. Before that, I used to work in schools. I still have that job. I'm going back to after maternity leave next year. So yeah, my passion has really come from that history working with children in schools, children and families, having like a really deep understanding of like so many different things, you know, adverse childhood experiences come into it, and kind of trauma in childhood, and developing these beautiful secure attachments can be such a protective factor for so many lifelong things. And really having this safety net and your secure base as an infant sets you up for success literally pretty much in every area of your life. And we never really, I think in the past, even psychology as a field, it's only kind of more recently that we've realized how important those first few years are. So there's this whole movement around the first 1,000 days of life and how our babies' brains are developing at the most rapid rate during that first 1,000 days. So it's about 2.5 years, and including in pregnancy. So it's really, really a fundamental part of our, you know, of growing up into a functioning adult, is having this secure attachment relationship with your primary caregiver. So basically, you know, as a species, we depend on this idea that we're going to be born and someone's going to fall in love with us and pick us up and, you know, obviously meet our every need and take care of us and let us know that we're safe in the world. So that also means taking reasonable risks and having some adversity, and then being able to come back to a secure base after that, so that we can, feel that when something goes wrong, we're still safe and we're still going to be supported, and that's kind of okay. And we take that lesson with us throughout everything else that we do, if you can see what I mean. So yeah, it's definitely come from that background, working in schools, working with children, understanding that this is coming from before they come to school, like, you know, knowing that some of these problems that are presenting can be looked at and targeted even earlier. And if people had some kind of really easy practices and simple things we could do to try and encourage these kinds of bonds and security, that would be really amazing and really magical.
Yeah, sounds brilliant. So let's dive into the different types of baby wearing. So when you talk about baby wearing, what are you actually referring to?
So baby wearing, basically, it's not a new practice. It's very ancient. Pretty much from the beginning of time, humans have been in some way carrying their babies with different devices. And, you know, this could have been animal skins and various things way back when. And it's definitely fallen out in probably more in the modern era, like when people started going to work, like the Industrial Revolution, that kind of age. And that was kind of where we kind of started to have these views of babies being independent, and let's encourage them to be independent. And obviously because we had to go to work and it's practical, and that's kind of where that started. So yeah, there's so many different ways to wear your baby, but it basically means having them attached to your body in some way. And to me, baby wearing is where you're using a kind of carrier or something that allows your hands to be free as well. And so that's kind of also goes back to the benefits, because benefits for baby are so far-reaching. Like there's more than just secure attachment. There's things about breastfeeding rates improving and reflux. It even treats reflux because babies are upright. And then also for the wearer, because you've got this sense of freedom back in your life where, sometimes we have these babies and things get turned upside down a little bit, don't they, when we have a new baby, and life can get a bit topsy-turvy. And I think that, baby wearing can just be this thing that just allows us a bit of freedom, and we're like, oh wow, we've got our hands back for a minute, and also my baby's not crying, and what is that about? Like some magic.
I distinctly remember the first meal I cooked where my baby didn't cry. With my first baby, that 5 o'clock mark was always the time when she was really unsettled. And one day I just popped her in. I think she was finally old enough to go in a sling. And it was, I remember exactly where I was standing, what I was cooking. Like I just remember that as being a really key pivotal moment. And then when it came to the third baby, she just lived in it, because I was, you can't achieve anything without.
Well, 3 babies as well, goodness me. But yeah, I've definitely experienced that moment, seeing many mums, even especially people who have believed my baby just hates the carrier. This isn't going to happen for me. It's really uncomfortable, or any of those kinds of things that have held them back, or they've tried to do it and it hasn't worked out. And we've just made some little tweaks and adjustments, or we've tried a different style of carrier, and just seeing that like warmth come over them when baby, quiets down and starts to soften and sometimes closes their eyes. I've seen that so many times. And I think that, you definitely have shared that sentiment with many other people who have finally discovered that magic. So
yeah, lovely. Well, let's dive into that a little bit more. What are some of the common reasons why people find it hard to use a carrier of some sort?
Oh, I think so many different reasons. I think a lot of it can be just that it's so foreign, and it can be really overwhelming, especially, you've got so many different styles of carriers, and some of them are long, big stretches of fabric. So if you just looked at this thing, it's like kind of this big, long, stretchy wrap, or it's a big, long woven wrap. And it literally can just be a strip of fabric, and you think, well, how am I going to attach a baby to my body wearing that? I don't understand. And it can just feel kind of overwhelming to even get started, or people might watch like a YouTube video and then think, nah, that looks way too complicated. I'm not going to do that. Or they can try it and baby just cries and it just feels like really stressful, and so that's not good. Or they can feel really, really uncomfortable in themselves wearing their baby. So, these are some of the common things that have come up in what I've seen. So we sort of, look at doing things to target those problems.
And from my perspective, I do see a lot of women that have upper body, like back aches and pains, shoulder aches and pains as a result of having a carrier that's perhaps not quite well fitted for them.
Really fitted, yeah, exactly right. And often it's just like the simplest little tweaks, like moving it up a bit higher and making it nice and tight, and, sitting the back, if it's a buckle carrier, which it often is, just putting that back clip in the right spot. And, it just can be really simple but really mind-blowing, because it can be so helpful after that, yeah.
Do you have any favourite carriers for certain ages?
So I guess with, I always love that question about favourite carriers. So that's probably half the reason I went into this job, is because I just got way addicted to buying baby carriers.
How many do you own?
Oh, too many. We're not going to talk about that.
Love it.
No, but it's a bit different. But I think when I had my own, just for me, not for my business, I probably had 5. Like that's probably too many. I reckon that's too many. So I think though for different ages there is actually some validity there, like having different carriers for different ages might be a good thing. One of the things I look at with families too is like, why do you want to wear your baby? We choose something that's going to suit their lifestyle and their body and their baby, because if you're wanting to go hiking, for example, versus wanting to just be able to have your hands free to do some things around the home, then you might not need the same type of carrier, and it might not be it might not be as important to look at all these little bits and pieces. So I think for a newborn, what's really worth keeping in mind is that obviously a newborn baby has a body that's a little bit more malleable and very yeah, we just want to be really gentle. We want to be wearing something with them that's soft and that molds onto their body perfectly so that we've got those ergonomics. And so I think for a newborn, it's really like more thinking like wraps and softer fabrics that are just not going to kind of move and manipulate the newborn's body in any way, right? Whereas for an older baby, you might be thinking, or a toddler, you might be thinking more that you want to wear them on your back, or you might be thinking that just that they're bigger and so you really want much more support. So you don't want anything stretchy and you don't want anything that's going to have any give in it. You want to be just firmly wearing them and they're going to stay put and they're not going to move and you're going to feel really comfortable. Yeah, so often people for a toddler would prefer to wear them on their back. Baby sits on your back and that way baby's up nice and high. They can see out into the world. If they're curious, that might be more appropriate for them so that they can just, enjoy seeing things and having that experience. So I guess that's a few key ideas, but there's lots to consider too.
Yeah, with my 3 children, I only ever had one carrier and I should have got another one because my carrier was only suitable once they had the head control and they were a bit older, and it was brilliant because they could face forwards, they could face you. So it was good for different purposes. But I do wish I'd grabbed another one for that newborn period. Would have made life easier.
Yeah, just something really supportive at that age, hey, so that they've obviously got that neck support. And that's one of the things, isn't it? We've got to think all the time about safety is the most important thing every time you're wearing a baby. So different levels of safety are required for different ages too.
Well, that's a perfect segue into the next question. What are some safety tips, Emma? What are some things we need to be aware of?
So the main thing that I always go back to is this acronym TICS, so TICKS, which I just like. It's just really simple. Every time we're wearing our baby, we always must check safety, obviously. It's like the first priority. So T stands for tight, so making sure that the carrier is worn nice and high and baby's positioned upright. So we no longer recommend the use of the side-lying slings because it's a little bit too much risk on baby's airways. So, yeah, baby position upright, nice and firm against your body so that there's no gaps and there's no room for slumping, especially in a newborn. We want their back to be really nicely supported so that there's no way that they can slump in on themselves because, at that point they're so squishy and we really need to just have their body supported against ours in that way.
So when you say upright, you mean vertical. You don't mean across your body, like on the diagonal?
Yeah, so upright. So, yeah, vertical. Yeah.
Oh, that's news to me. I know I'm a bit out of I know my daughter's a bit older now, so I didn't know that. When did that change?
It's just one of those new things. I don't think they're really sold much anymore, to be honest, except obviously secondhand and things like that. So just, yeah, it's probably a more recent thing that has changed with lots more baby wearing consulting popping up and people doing formal training in that area. So I think that's probably where it's come from. I'm not too sure, but definitely thinking about how we can reduce the risk of baby's chin falling onto their chest. And obviously, like that's the same in a car seat, like these times where you need to watch your baby and how they're positioned. And I think there's also been some really scary and sad stories in the news that have probably prompted more safety. But there still are no mandates and there's no actual regulation board, which is kind of interesting. And yeah, just the fact that baby carriers can just be sold willy-nilly in a way without really any structure around that. Baby Wearing Australia, there's a new association which has kind of been developed to target some of those things and also to just train up lots more consultants so that people can go and help people get fitted safely and securely and feel comfortable. So, which is great.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
good to know.
So we did T, and then I is for in view, which is like just making sure we can always see our baby's face. And that means being able to see their nose and mouth. And so that should be just by simply looking down. So if you're having a carrier where baby's really quite covered, you probably want to look at just doing some little tweaks to make sure that you can look down and see their mouth and nose really clearly. And then we've got C, which is close enough to kiss, which means, sometimes we put on a carrier and the kind of natural thing to do can be to put it right down on your hips, like if you've got a waistband on it, you might put it really low down on your hips and then baby's kind of sitting on your, further down your chest or on your stomach. So especially for a newborn, but for most ages, it's kind of more comfortable for the wearer too if you wear the baby up higher. And so that's just a really nice one to remember, close enough to kiss, that you want to be able to just bend your head down and be able to kiss baby on the head, because that will make it really comfy and you can monitor them so easily and more comfy for the wearer. And then we've got K for keeping chin off the chest, which is what I was saying before. So keeping your own baby's chin off their chest. And we really want to have like a 2-finger space in between their chin and their chest so that we're always supporting that their airways are free and regularly checking our baby. And then we've got S, which is supported back. So we just, as I said before, want to have that natural position of their back, so upright, and their tummy and chest against yours. And that means also that they would be supported enough that if you were to kind of bend over or move, they wouldn't fall out and they'd be, supported in the carrier and safe.
This episode is brought to you by Baby Bee, Australian-owned and designed prams combining quality, safety and style. Not only does Baby Bee let you try their prams at home with free returns for 9 months. Yes, that's 9 months. They also offer an industry-leading 3-year warranty for total peace of mind. With thousands of 5-star reviews, around-the-clock customer care, and up to $300 of free accessories with every pram, what are you waiting for? Go visit www.babybeeonline.com and check them out for yourself. And yes, for listeners of the podcast, there is a 20% discount code. Enter FITBEE, FITBEE 20 at checkout, and T's and C's apply. Brilliant. And in terms of ergonomics?
So then there's a couple of other levels. So I guess once you've got the safety, that's kind of your basic, we always want to have our babies safe, of course. And then we've got optimal positioning, which is the next level on top of that. And if you're having any discomfort or if baby's just unsettled, I'd always just recommend looking into optimal positioning, which is more about having their legs supported in that M shape. So we want to have them in a little frog leg squat, if you can picture what I mean, with their knees a bit higher than their bottom. And that supports their healthy hip development as well. So it makes sure that we're not putting added pressure on their hips by having a straight leg carry. And then also the J-shaped spine. So if you can imagine a little natural curve in their spine, and you can picture that with your newborn when they come out and they're kind of in a little ball, in a bundle in a way, their natural position is to have a bit of a curve in their spine. So we want to try to avoid having too much of a straight back, but that's not to say that it's unsafe to carry them in a carrier that, that doesn't do these things, because as I said, it's more looking at that optimal positioning, and it's still really beautiful to carry a baby in any carrier as long as it's safe. Even if their legs are straight and their back is straight, that's still a beautiful practice for you both. So
yeah, brilliant. And it's really interesting seeing the different carriers around the world in different cultures. They're all so different.
Yes,
it's amazing.
There's so much out there, isn't there? And I was trying to think of this before, how many different styles of carriers are there? And I think you can kind of put them into categories. And I love Brooke Marie is a baby wearing consultant in Brisbane, and she talks about them being different shoe styles. So a ring sling, which is just on one shoulder, and it's really supportive actually, but it's a little bit more of maybe a casual carrier, not so much something that sticks on and stays. You can adjust it really easily, take it on and off. And she talks about that as being flip-flops or thongs, and then more when you're wearing a buckle carrier that's really sturdy, that would kind of be more like your sneakers, something you can exercise in. So she does a whole bunch of different categories like those, but there are amazing carriers out there for sure, and hybrids, different breeds that are together. So
I have to know, what are the stilettos?
I think that was probably a narrow-based one that doesn't give you much. So when I'm talking about narrow-based, if it's narrow-based, then that means the baby's legs are a bit straighter, but it also kind of puts your center of gravity off a bit. So if you can picture that with wearing stilettos, obviously you can wear them for a short time and they look awesome and they do the job, but you probably don't want to wear them for 8 hours a day because they're not your most comfortable. So narrow-based.
Oh, Emma, you have to do an Instagram post with different shoes
Yeah.
and slings.
Yeah.
That's your job.
That's a good idea.
I'll share it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. So what are the benefits for the different types of slings? So we talked a little bit in terms of if you're going for a big hike, have them on your back so they can see out. Are there any other benefits you wanted to share in terms of the different types of slings?
Yeah, so many. So I guess certain ones are much more cocooned. Like if you're going to wear a stretchy wrap for a newborn, that's like a really beautiful feeling of, kind of imitating the womb in a way, because there's so much covering over them and they're beautifully ergonomic because it's such soft fabric. And also you'll feel that way because you're going to wrap it onto your own body. And if you do that, obviously it's just going to mold perfectly to your body. There's no stiffness, there's no adjusting. It's kind of just on, which is amazing. A ring sling is awesome for summer wearing because it's just kind of on one shoulder and it's really just one strip of usually quite light fabric. So yeah, that's great for summer, especially if we're in Australia. You've got one arm free, so you've got a bit of breeziness and less fabric. Yeah.
And is that the sling that you can breastfeed in?
Yes, you can breastfeed in that. You can also breastfeed in most carriers. Actually, I think all carriers, to be honest. It would be easier in certain ones. So it would definitely be easier in a ring sling, and it would be easier. I find it quite easy in a buckle carrier because you just quickly loosen under your armpits. And that way baby drops down to a height that's appropriate for breastfeeding. So, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I had a buckle carrier and there was no hope of breastfeeding. I don't know what I was doing wrong, but yeah.
Oh, I know, but it's sort of like that thing, isn't it? It's like a dance. Like you've got to, figure out both things and how you're going to breastfeed with a baby upright, and then are you comfortable doing that in a carrier, and how well is your carrier set up to be adjusted and moved and everything like that too.
Yeah, there's lots to think of. Yeah, brilliant. Did I interrupt you? Were there any other benefits you wanted to discuss?
Of the different styles, I guess like woven wraps are not going to move at all, same as a buckle carrier and a ring sling actually. They kind of, once you've got them set up, there's no give. So they stay where they are, which means if you're going to walk a lot or if you're going to do an exercise class, like I do Kanga training, and that's a postnatal exercise, which is meant to be done with women's health physio by your side as well. So, like you would see someone like Kath and then come to Kanga and do this if you had decided that was appropriate. And yeah, so something like that, you would want to use something that's really firm and it's not going to move. So you'd want to be quite good at using a woven wrap in that case because they don't move at all, but you need to get them nice and tight. And yeah, I think that's probably, there's so many other things I could probably say, Kath.
Oh,
I don't know.
Well, amazing. To wrap up, what would be your top few tips for someone who might be about to give birth or has recently given birth? They're really interested in baby wearing. I know it can be really overwhelming. If you go into, Baby Buntings or one of the big shops, you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much out there. So where do women start?
One of my top tips, I guess, would be just considering what your needs are. Have a look at if you can find any blogs or information online from baby wearing consultants, because often they do put things out that are literally just talking about the benefits of different styles of carriers for different reasons. And, booking a consultation if you're not sure. There's a whole list of a directory on the Australian Baby Wearing Association website. So there are lots of consultants popping up around the country. But in general, I would say, if you're trying to use your carrier and it's tricky, I think firstly, if baby's unsettled, movement is really important. So, some nice, deep, gentle squats or having a little walk, like trying it on and then going outside for a little walk and coming back inside to see if that kind of helps. And if it's too stressful, just go back to skin, like take it gently and slowly, like just spend that time bonding rather than trying to force it and encourage it. But don't give up, like keep trying in little bursts. And usually, because they love to be close to us and that's kind of their natural environment, usually if we can get it comfortable and we can get you both feeling good, they love it and they'll sleep and, so we can get that feeling really beautiful for both of you. Oh, gorgeous. Well, thank you, Emma. Where can our listeners find more of you? Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at nurtured_ by Emma Jenkins. And I've got a website which is www.nurturenaturesydney.com.au. So people can email me from there or find me on Instagram. Yeah. Great. And I'll put all those links in the show notes, including that Australian Baby Wearing Association that you mentioned too. So thank you so much for opening up
a whole new... When I started this podcast, I would not have thought I'd do an episode on baby wearing, and I'm so excited that we have been able to. So Thank you so much, Emma.
Thank you so much for having me. That was wonderful.
And before we sign off, please remember my team and I will be putting together the show notes for this episode with all the links at fitnessmama.com/podcast. So be sure to head there to find out how to connect with Emma and send us an Instagram message at fitnessmama. And don't forget the free pregnancy workshop that is kickstarting on Wednesday, the 1st of December. Have a fabulous day, everyone, and I look forward to you joining me next week for another episode of the Fitness Mama podcast. Thanks for listening to the Fitness Mama podcast, brought to you by the Fitness Mama freebies found at www.fitnessmama.com/free. So please take a few seconds to leave a review, subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and be sure to take a screenshot of this podcast, upload it to your social media, and tag me at Fitness Mama so I can give you a shout out too. Until next time, remember, an active pregnancy, confident childbirth, and strong postnatal recovery is something that you deserve. Remember our disclaimer, materials and contents in this podcast are intended as general information only and shouldn't substitute any medical advice, diagnosis or treatment. I'll see you soon.